I saw a story that their week one had the lowest rate of kick returns since like 2000, and I don't believe that you guys had a return. I was curious, like, what are the teaching points? I mean, with these new rule changes, if there's not
To
gonna
me,
be
I
right.
think it's a couple of things. If you look around the games, I think it was number one in a lot of the early games there wasn't a lot of scoring, so you can say percentages, but when there's not a lot of kicks, obviously that's going to have a factor in it. And I think obviously then early in the season, between the ball traveling much better than it is going to be later in the year in a lot of places, along with teams still getting adjusted to the roster. You go through preseason with certain guys playing, and you think this is going to be my guy, that's going to be my guy, and next thing you know, you get to the regular season, doesn't always necessarily hold true, and now you got a couple of guys that you're blending in that haven't gotten either a whole lot of reps or a change of position. So I think maybe people are playing a little bit closer to the vest in week one.
So 14 kickoffs and 0 returns is terribly boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's a waste of everybody's time. It's
That's how
terrible.
you really feel, Joe.
Well, no, it's so I like the XFL thing where you don't have the big collisions. They line up closer to each other. I'm sure you've seen it. Would you be cool with that?
Again, whatever rules they give me to play by, I'm going to play. Sadly, they don't ask me,
They did though, right?
but they don't.
But
They don't.
The special teams coaches had preferences and then they went against it, right?
They're going to do what they think is best, and it's their show, and they can do that. I think it's an important play, and I think as we've all seen, as the year progresses, you're going to see it's going to become more and more of a factor. As long as it's part of the game, I'll play by whatever rules they make it. But I think here in 7 or 8 weeks, we're going to be having some different conversations as the season progresses and different things happen.
Sunday, you watched Jason miss the extra point, and you thought, what?
I didn't think anything. I'm like, I pushed it, and again, sometimes those things happen. He had 7 good kickoffs, made 3 field goals. That's. Yeah, you don't ever like it. You don't ever want it. Then it's a matter of getting onto the tape and looking at it and trying to figure out why it happened. Was it the snap? Was it the hold? Was it his tempo? Was it why did it happen? And it was a little push right. Can't have it. Don't want it. Our job is to score points when we go out on the field, but not a concern whatsoever. And in terms of, I don't ever make anything a bigger deal as it is just because of when it happens. We fumble the ball inside the 5-yard line. If it happens in the first quarter, you don't think a lot about it. It happens in the fourth quarter, it's doomsday. So what happens. You got to sort of at times take the timing and the sequence of the game out of it and focus on why it happened.
At some point, I don't know if you've had this in your career, there's going to be a questionable field goal call in terms of when it goes over the upright, will any part of the ball be on the outside, thus making it a field goal? It's not good. I know it's not reviewable. What recourse do you have in that instance? Would you and the head coach just scream at the referees? What happens then?
Nothing. And I hate to. This is a boring conversation. There's nothing you can do about it. And even if it was reviewable, what you've seen and you guys follow as much, unless it's just something crazy, which something like that is not going to be just cut and dried where they are going to reverse it. They're always going to favor what was called on the field, so it's going to be what it's going to be. So getting upset, to me, it's, hey, move on to the next play. Make sure the players, you preach that to them, move on to the next play. Don't lose your mind because you're not changing it. So it's the same thing for us as coaches.
Why don't they just make the goalposts longer? Have they always been the exact same length?
Well, no, they actually did make them higher several years ago. So they lengthened them several years ago for that same conversation. Eventually what happens is you make them too high. Now as the wind blows, now it's, you can't control it. Now as the wind blows, it's a moving target, and that even makes it more difficult. And as a coach, I don't want that for my kicker.
You almost need like some laser technology,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if sometime that doesn't happen. Yeah, and we keep seeing it, and you're just like me. We're still using the chain and the post, and meanwhile you're watching on TV and there's lines that can differentiate every possible thing, but on the field we're we're still doing this. So I think eventually, some point, yeah, you're going to see the technology that again is available. I don't know what the cost is. That's not but I think there is a way.
$16 billion business. I think they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Cameron Good because we've seen him from the beginning of training camp be part of core special teams unit. What has he done, or what does a player in particular have to do to say, hey, Danny Crossman, say, that's my guy?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a combination when you look at Cam, and really you look at all these the college players. And the first comment I get from so many of them when we get about halfway through OTAs is, this is so different from college football. You know, I think the emphasis, the rules, obviously, you know, how things change. You know, in college football, you snap it and they just run down the field, and you know, it's a totally different game. But he's a guy that's gotten better, was able to overcome some nicks, was really playing well in the spring, and then got hurt and missed a couple weeks, which for him, you know, you think it could be a setback, but it wasn't. You know, once we got to training camp, you know, he was full ahead and was right back on, and has really done a good job with the classroom stuff, and then obviously most importantly being able to transition and take that to the field. So, you know, really like where he's at, and hopefully that we're just scratching the surface.
As long as I can remember, the Patriots have always made up margins on special teams with positive performances. What is it about them this year that makes them so challenging on special teams?
Well, to me, it's like everything. You know, they build their team differently than just about everybody else in the National Football League. You know, they have certain guys that are there. They're going to play on all four special teams phases, and they're going to be very, very good to great players. And you know, they don't have a role. They're never going to have a role offensively and defensively, but they're going to be outstanding in the kicking game, which really separates some things. I mean, that is their core position. You know, they'll do individual drills with just the special teams guys. Now they're working through some things with the young specialists. You know, because historically, as we all know, they've always had outstanding specialists to go with it. But these two young guys are talented; they're going to be good players. But the way they build the team and the emphasis they put on it, you know, they're a little bit different than most of the teams in the National Football League.